Konnichiwa minasan, Marina desu. How y'all doing? So today is a special video because it is the first episode of Frill Talk, and I have two lovely guests with me that I am so excited to talk with. So Jojo and Rue, how are y'all doing? I'm so happy y'all are here.
Hello. Thanks for having us. Yeah, it's really an honor.
So tell me, how have y'all been? First off, like I know COVID's just been crazy. So how have y'all been overall?
I mean, we're out here surviving.
Right.
We're doing our best. Mm-hmm.
I can only imagine. And funny thing, we actually live in technically we're in the same local community, but we've never actually met. And this is our first time meeting over Zoom. So how crazy is that?
Yeah, it's literally we just keep missing each other.
Yeah, like we were just talking about this off video, and I've been here living here at least for 2 years, and they've been here for longer, so it's just crazy. But y'all met one of my other friends, Tiffany. So
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Just saw Tiffany Milk Circus at
last Matsuri-con?
Yep.
Before everything went down south.
Yeah, no.
wow, that's just crazy. So let's just get to know y'all so the audience can know who y'all are. So first off, what style do y'all wear and how long you've been into the J fashion style? I can see both y'all wear Lolita.
That's
I personally have been wearing collectively Lolita, technically OG fashion as Midwest OG Summer of 2019. And also Fairy K for 5 years now. It'll be, I think, going on 6 since 2015. I'm bad at math. Somehow, but you know.
And how about you, Rue?
So I'm old. So I started wearing Lolita in 2005. I've been in and out of the community since because I started when I was really young. Like I was a minor, so you know, money, buying things. Got back into the fashion as an adult. And then even then been on and off. I was also into VK/Visual K in the mid to early 2000s going into like 2011. And then I've worn Fairy K on and off for about 4 years. So mainly Lolita has been my main focus of J fashion, but I have worn Visual K and I'm sorry, my cat.
She wants to make an appearance.
She's like, y'all gonna see me. And yeah, so Visual K, Fairy K, and Lolita. And then I've tried dabbling in some other things here and there, but those are my big 3.
Right. That's awesome. That's so awesome. So since y'all been in the fashion for a good chunk of time, maybe not Rue, but maybe you, Jojo, has there ever been a time that you wish you got into J fashion sooner?
Most definitely. I feel like I'm just so frazzled. But like just because, you know, like the circumstance, like as we mentioned before, they started when they were a minor, and you know, 2015 I just graduated high school. But there were like so many people who
you remind me how much older I am of you.
But you know, like the whole everything just like was just a huge shift. Like even before then when I like, you know, was like that whole Elite at Heart thing. I wish I had gotten into it then, but it's also a blessing in disguise because, you know, that was when Milano was like a thing and people weren't so cautious to it. And if they were, it was like very much like a couple people had isolated incidents, but like that was when Lolita was kind of starting to gain a little bit more traction, at least in the United States. So in a lot of respects, I do wish I gotten into it earlier, but I feel like it was kind of a blessing in disguise that I got into it when I did. I wish sometimes that I had the wardrobe that I had now sooner, but that's just, you know, common, you know, when you're a newbie, you want it all. So
Right.
that's more speaking of that sort of testament.
How about you, Rue? Is there a time of Lolita or J fashion in general that before you got into it, you kind of wish you got into it sooner in general?
So, oddly enough, so like when I was into Lolita fashion, old school was just regular. So like I even told Jordan, like I believe in like old school Lolita supremacy. I want to make my entire wardrobe old school sweet. That is what I want to do. I actually designed this dress because like I and I sewed it. And
wait, hold on. You made that dress?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I made the head.
I totally thought it was like a baby dress or something.
I'm so that is a high honor. It does not look that good. Trust me, it doesn't. It
Yes,
doesn't.
it does.
Not. This was a very rushed project. I just wanted it, so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna spend
Weird flex.
Stop.
But
No,
such a flex.
I love old school baby. Like I grew up with baby. And I want to have an old school wardrobe. I'm actually currently working on an old school wardrobe. But I did miss out on 2012 Sweet. That was around the time I had some illnesses with family. I was helping out with like bills and things like that. Don't want to give a shop story. But I did put my family first. And so I didn't spend any extra money on like video games or fashion. And so during that time when I was helping with my family, I missed 2012 Sweet. I saw how big it was getting. And I was like, y'all wear colored wigs now?
And the split wigs. The split
what?
Yeah.
Huge shift. Oh my gosh. I remember the beginning of it too, when like the split tail wigs were coming in. I actually sat with another Lolita who was wearing like, old school, I guess now. Mm-hmm. And she was just like, since when do we wear lavender wigs in the fashion? And I told Jordan that story and I'm like, it's so weird because like that's how it was though.
Wow.
I do wish I got into 2012 Sweet. It looked like so much fun. I totally missed out on the whole like OTT. I missed all of that. So when I came back into the fashion in 2015, I was like, whoa, what? Like I've seen prints and I've known dresses and stuff, but I was just like, wait, do y'all like not wear old school? Like what? And I definitely wish I would have gotten to Fairy K sooner too. Because again, like the whole like OTT and like Decora, like I missed all of that in its peak, and I really wish I didn't. So
yeah, I feel the same. Like I've started I started Decora for a little bit, and then like with anyone else, you kind of venture out to the other J fashions. So Decora was like my first experience in like 2015ish, and then eventually I got into Lolita. I totally feel that. I kind of wish I did start like in the early 2010s with just the sweet. I love it. I absolutely love it. Wow, that's awesome. I do want to thank y'all again for being here on the first episode. I'm so grateful, especially since you're a couple of people that I personally know. Even though we haven't met, I definitely feel like we have such a friendship and a bond, and I honestly can't wait to meet the both of you.
We talk in such good graces about you all the time in passing. It's just like, oh my gosh, I love Christina so much. I would love to spend, some con time with her whenever, cons open up.
Yeah. I know, and everything's safe again. Oh man.
It just seems like a Six Flags sort of situation.
Man.
Oh man, that's awesome. So we do have a lot to talk about. So Frill Talk, listen to Real Voices in J Fashion. It's more than wanting to unbox and show pretty things. We do want to talk about some of your personal experiences. So aside from these two, there'll be plenty of other just regular folks. I wouldn't call everyone that will be guests on here like influencers and all that. I would just say they're some of my friends and just honestly just regular folks that just wear J Fashion just because they love wearing J Fashion. So some of the questions that I guess I wanted to ask you is your experience as being a Black person in J Fashion. Now you can specify in Lolita or just overall. So really, has there ever been a time, for example, that either of you have felt like uncomfortable at a meetup? Just as like an opener question. It could be a difficult and an unfortunate experience to have.
It's not difficult. It's not difficult. But I don't know if some people are ready to hear this conversation, because I feel like this concept, or rather this non-Black concept of what it's like to be Black in a J Fashion. I hit my leg. is that people either think that we're totally fine and everybody accepts us, or we're in constant turmoil, and they don't accept even the little things. Like, things aren't always, even though they do happen, like some people just get a little too courageous and just like say the most racist things. But a lot of people don't understand that racism is not only a talk thing, but like it can build up, it can snowball.
Yeah.
They don't understand that there are some microaggressions. Like, I'm sure we can, like, you know, write a whole book about some microaggressions that, you know, high teas we've been to, just cons, things that, you know, people say in passing that they think people aren't listening, but like, Pete. But people don't realize that, and it's kind of a disservice, and it also is like really disheartening, and what leads a lot of people to think that, like, you know, maybe my experience isn't that bad because it was minor or a microaggression and whatnot. So one thing that I personally am always just hyper aware about, whether people are doing it consciously or subconsciously, before I cut my hair, of course, obviously this is not my hair, people will get really invasive about our hair, and they like to not only think that, like, you know, they can touch it, but also they think in some instances, because they are so enlightened, because they do have a lot of information about our hair at their disposal nowadays, they think they can just talk to us as if we don't know, or as if there's some sort of savior sort of thing. Like, they're like, oh yeah, well, I know what a wig looks like, I know what a wig looks like. And I'm like, I'm just trying to decide whether I want Earl Grey or green tea today. Like, I graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in Psych, and I spent a lot of time in social sciences, but like, you know, a lot of people, again, like to treat this fashion as escapism, but they forget that they want to not make things about race, but they bring that to the table subconsciously sometimes. It's just like, I'm just trying to eat my macarons, man. But those are just some things that I personally have experienced vaguely as a person who is Black in the J fashion community. To go back to the question in particular, I'm so sorry for just grabbing this. Just feeling uncomfortable at a meetup, just like, you know, people picking up on our lingo, our language.
Vernacular.
It's tossing it around so casually. It's just like, it's tiring, and it's just like constant over and over and over again. And then when they try and bring it to you as if they're trying to relate to you, it's like, who are you calling sis, first of all? Because that's not me. We're not related.
Yeah.
But it's just weird.
Yeah.
To say the least. Weird and violent, but mostly weird. So, or if you wanted to speak to more to that, because I feel like you've had a little bit more in person experiences, or just whatever.
Yeah. So like, I guess for me, because I'm looking at the question, I've been uncomfortable at meetups. A lot of the stuff that Jordan has said, because we've gone to meetups together, really does ring true. A very common phrase is like, you guys always bring race into it. And like Jordan was saying, just to piggyback off of that, like, we live in an anti-Black racist society. We just do. That the foundations of this country were built on anti-Blackness, anti-Indigenousness, anti-Latino, just very racist, very violent. It just is what it is. And the sooner we realize that, the sooner we can start to decolonize our minds and our mindsets. A lot of the microaggressions that we experience, I truly believe a lot of the people who do these things don't even realize it's an issue. They think it's like a little passing joke, or they just think it's, you know, what's the big deal? You don't even realize that your words have power and that they hurt, because how would you know? Society has romanticized the like Black experience in general as just being comedic. Like, there's just so much nuance that goes into it that people aren't willing to look into. And if they hear me like talking about it, they think, oh, you're just being overdramatic. And like, am I though? Am I being overdramatic in a whole race of people, their whole entire lives? Is that overdramatic to you? Maybe you need to unpack why you feel that way. Why are you uncomfortable having these conversations? And as far as like meetups, I mean, a little different. I am, you know, visibly Black. I am Afro-Latino, but people see me in a room, I'm Black. It is what it is. I'm also a fat person. So like, that reality is gonna look different than Jordan. Yeah. And so like, I've gone to meetups and I've had people not want to like sit with me or even talk with me because I am fat, or because like, you know, like I look different, or like based on what I'm wearing, like, am I wearing brand? And I never thought that was like an issue because like we're all in the fashion, you know.
And
But
it's
you can
always
tell.
presented as like some sort of fictional
Yeah,
thing that
like,
never
oh
happens.
no, like we don't do that. We don't care about that. I'm like, okay, so why when I went to this meetup, like I was with all the Black Lolitas and y'all weren't talking to us? Why was it when we went to so-and-so event, you all stayed in your circle and I was over here? Like, I want to socialize. I'm an extrovert. Why, when you guys were looking at me, you're looking me up and down a little like, why is that? Why, let's talk about that. Like, you know, but you know it exists, but you don't want to talk about it. I love this fashion too, but we'd be doing the fashion in our community a disservice if we don't let the people in our community feel comfortable. There's not going to be a community left if no one's comfortable.
Right.
I've experienced microaggressions as far as people using AAVE to me to make a joke when I'm literally like, I'm at a tea party. I am just trying to chill. I have so much I can talk about. I'm not just in a J fashion. I have lots of interests. Why are you saying pull up hella finna the fleek to me? Unprovoked. I'm like, giving me whiplash. I'm gonna have a heart attack on one of these tea parties one day. Like just talking to me any type of way, bringing up the most out of pocket stuff. But it's just like, well, my one friend's a Black Lolita and they don't see an issue with this. Just the sooner we realize as a community the stuff that we say and how racially charged they are, and just listening to other like Black Lolitas, the better off we'll be. But yeah, I've definitely experienced macro and microaggressions as far as like physical appearance, hair, vernacular, just all sorts of stuff. And yeah, I don't know if that fully answered your question. I'm sorry if I rambled.
No, I think that pretty much is really, there isn't a right or wrong answer with these things, quite honestly. So it really just depends on the person and then the experiences that they lived in. So really, because for example, like what makes one person uncomfortable might not make someone else uncomfortable. So really everyone has their own truths. And again, I don't want to be a broken record, but that's kind of the purpose of this whole Frill Talk episode. So I thank you for sharing that. I personally, I feel like I've never either, maybe I just block it, or I personally
And
have
that's
never
I
experienced
too.
like a harassment or not even harassment, but just the tiny things. There might be like little suspect things that kind of trickle into your mind, but even at the time, I wouldn't think like, huh. But then like even like the past year or two, I've definitely have noticed, or I guess my eyes have been more open about these sorts of things, not just towards me, but like others. And you know, I note it. Marina has remembered that, you know, like man.
But like with really quick too, I wanted to say like, I feel like non-Black people also don't realize the amount of just like both vigilance that we as Black people have, but also we have to code switch. We have to like block things out to survive.
Right.
When I'm out in public and someone's talking, treating, acting, like literally when I go into fashion stores or like Joann's and I'm buying fabric and people are following me around the store, sometimes it's out of my mind. I'm so used to that. I'm used to the narrative, oh, I'm a Black person, I'm in a store. But there are other times where it's like, I literally know that this woman has been following me since I've entered the store. And now, like, I have mental illness. Like, I get anxiety, like, as any person would being followed. But, like, now I'm sitting here trying to be like, okay, Rue, like, don't have a flare up. Don't be manic. Just be chill. Just get the fabric and leave. But people are watching me and, like, I have to, that is my reality. It's exhausting. So when we go to meetup stuff and stuff like that, like we are still bringing all of that trauma and all of that, like that reality follows us everywhere. We don't ask to have hypervigilance. We don't want to be the center of attention, make everything about us, but that's our reality. And as a fellow Lolita, you know what it's like to be in public and have people stare. Like I would expect our community to have more empathy on that reality because it varies on people, you know, like you just brought that up and it just really made me remember that, like, you know, like we as Black people, like that's our reality. It's always just, we always have to look over our shoulder. I have to make sure, like, and I'm also like a lesbian. I'm always looking over my shoulder. Like that is just a reality for a lot of us. And I don't know, man, I just feel like it's just so easy to like be empathetic, but I guess not. But sorry. Please
No,
go.
there's nothing to apologize for. I appreciate all the whenever y'all want to chime in, please do so. Just chime in. Man. So, in regards of that then, so how do you feel I would say there's about two major on Facebook, two major like Black oriented J fashion groups. So one is Black Lolita community and the other is Black J Fashionista Society. Now, how do y'all feel? How important are these groups for people who are of Afro descent that are in J fashion?
I think it is absolutely vital. I personally am not always on Facebook, but I do know the amount of efforts that are done in Black J Fashionista Society, I believe is what it's called, and BLC, Black Lolita Collective, that I don't see in white-led or otherwise non-Black-led spaces. And of course, there's always things that are going to come up, you know, like favoritism towards colorism, fat phobia and stuff like that. That's always going to be ever present in our spaces regardless. But I have noticed in those spaces, there are more active efforts rather than just like, stay kind, be true, be sort of thing.
Right.
I feel like it's just absolutely vital, not only for people who are like, you know, younger and up and coming, but like people who are older and are just now finding agency in their bodies and finding agency in the things that they wear. Like, it's really important because a lot of people think that the average new person is going to be like, you know, this 15-year-old kid who just got their job. But a lot of the new people that I'm noticing, that I notice a lot of other groups act very disgruntled towards, are going to be the older people who are people who are going to be like 30, 35, 40, you know, just came into some recent disposable income, you know, they might have had kids, they may have kids. And in other spaces, I just find that they very much brush them off like, well, just go to Big Sister Lolita, just go to Law Library, just that sort of thing. But I noticed that not only combined with the nature of us just being marginalized people, but also the kind of culture that not only, but typically is seen in Afrocentric spaces is treating each other like family and going about it more so in like a collectivist or like we're all in this together sort of mentality rather than an individualistic or like I matter first, you come second, which again, putting yourself first is good in a lot of instances, but like when you're going about it in a very like, you know, unkind and selfish way, that's not what's going to help. So I feel that is just again a straight testimony to not only who we are as like a fashion, but also who we are as a people, what Afrocentric and Afro diaspora people are that cannot be copied. Yeah. Like it cannot be appropriate. I think that's something that I really appreciate about that.
Yeah. I agree. Jordan's so good with words, and I'm always just like, I'm like, yeah.
You're so eloquent, I know.
A lot of me being involved in student leadership and also just not talking. Like in school, I just didn't do a lot of talking. And I unfortunately was subject to a lot of bullying, but just, you know, me spending a lot of time in my head and also my comfort being writing, being J fashion, being drawing, being a bunch of weeb stuff and a bunch of nerd stuff led me to that sort of thing. And also my Myers-Briggs test tells me I'm an advocate, so I think that means something.
How about you, Rue? Do you have anything to add?
So, sorry, I was
fine, don't worry.
Your words. Okay, so like,
so how important is BLC and?
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're fine. Don't worry. That's why I sent it to y'all so y'all can have it in front of you too.
So I 100% agree that those spaces are super important because, and I know we're going to be talking about this more in depth within the conversation, but as you experience and as we've experienced and even witnessed on social media, Black Lolitas are very, very often silenced on the experiences that we go through in our community. And so pages like Black Fashionistas, I literally am on the group.
We're
on
both
Facebook.
in the groups.
It's
We're just
Black Lolita Black Lolita Collective?
It's
Black Lolita. Oh my god. I'm a horrible
community.
and then there's Black Fashionista Society. I'm a part of both of those, and having a space where we can say unfiltered without appealing to whiteness and white people and like catering to their feelings. We can say like, hey, this happened to me. Can I talk about it? Like, because sometimes we need that validation too from our own people to be like, hey, like, you know, you're Black, I'm Black. We know what it's like to be Black. I'm also a Lolita. You're also a Lolita, which is a very niche experience.
Yeah.
I went through this. Can y'all validate me? Can we talk about it? Like, am I losing it? Like, just having that space where you can say, I'm uncomfortable without a non-Black person being like, well, I wasn't uncomfortable, or like, well, that makes me uncomfortable that you're uncomfortable. Like, just having that space to just be unapologetically yourself and talk about your experience is so healing. It is necessary for us because let's be honest, our communities do not cater to that. Our local communities, our big meetups, people that we surround ourselves with, they don't cater to that. They don't care. They don't experience it. And people are very self-focused, and it is what it is. And if something isn't about you, people, unfortunately, oftentimes they'll put in the extra work. I know as like personally, there are certain things that I don't experience, like, but I do my best to try to be an ally and listen. And not everybody does that. Mm-hmm. So having a space where people are like you, so you can kind of get that validation, is healing, because not everybody, you know, you're not going to see someone with something on their forehead that says ally. You don't know who you can trust, who you can talk to. People might end up gaslighting you, and you're already in such a stuck in place that you don't even realize it's gaslighting. But and not to say that this doesn't happen in those communities. It absolutely is going to happen in any space that you are. But for me, as a Black person, very proud and unapologetically Black person, to have a space where I can be like, nah, that was racist.
Yeah.
And like not have to hear some non-Black, especially like white person being like, oh my gosh, you guys just throw that word around. I've actually been a victim of a hate crime.
Or like the whole cry typing thing where they're just always mean, like it's like either you completely invalidate us or you completely make us feel guilt even though you're the one that messed up.
It's like we need that space to be able. And then also like, again, like not even just the negatives, because there's so many positives too. I love seeing people that look like me. When I first got to the fashion, no one looked like me. I didn't see a lot of fat Lolitas. One of the first cords I ever wore was Bodyline OP that had like shearing and stuff on it. Like I wore Shiro Lolita. Like I didn't see people that looked like me. Even like, I'm gonna be real, my first coordinate, I had my mom, not the Bay Yang, but I had my mom cut me a blonde, like a straight cut. She put me a middle part and had me look two little, you know, from like the hair store, a little clip on. I had a big bow on my head, and she thought I looked like a little Victorian doll. But I got some, I got some white Mary Janes from Payless. Like that was my first court. I had never seen no one look like me, and you know I've been the victim of ridicule. Like even when I was a minor, I've had people say very violent, racially charged things about my appearance in J fashion, and I've had people say that did not happen. Like you that did not happen to me, and I'm like, okay, that's fine.
It didn't.
I have nothing to gain by talking about that. I don't like it, like, but you know, it is what it is. And just when I was in a Lolita, no one looked like me. So seeing these spaces now where people like the fact that I've been meeting other plus size Black Lolitas has been mind blowing, because I'm like, oh my god, what? And you're wearing Brant.
Right.
Like that was so unheard of when I was a kid. And I've even had people come in my DMs. I had people come up to me at cons, which is so surreal to me, being like, where do you get your dress? You're so pretty. I never thought I could wear Lolita. Like that, if anything, that's so important. And just having that space where you can literally see Black joy. You can see Black people being feminine in a way that isn't ridiculed or demonized. Like people don't understand what Black people went through in this country. So they see our racism and our microaggressions as nothing. But when you actually learn the history of what actually happened to us, and I won't go into detail because I don't want it to get deep like that, but Black people went through a lot of stuff. Black people weren't even seen as humans. Black women weren't even seen as women. So when we have a fashion that we could be feminine and it's not like a joke, it's so healing. Like, people really don't know how healing it is. And so, yes, to reiterate your question, super important. Just existing in a space unapologetically without remorse, when we have to do that on a regular basis all the time, we are constantly policing our emotions and actions. It's so important to have a space like that. Absolutely.
Wow. That just blew me away. Honestly,
Sorry,
that makes no. I have no words after that. My heart just wow. it's just beating like wow. I appreciate that. Honestly, that was I mean you too, Jojo. Y'all both said that very, very beautifully, honestly. So I have a funny thing for y'all to fill in the blank.
Oh wait, I love this.
Oh yeah, I saw.
Gotta make this a little bit funnier, but still kind of serious. Tell me, so fill the blank when you hear shit that white Lolitas say. I'll give y'all time to think. I'll
So
give y'all time to think.
shit white Lolitas say. Oh my god, there's so many things. There are like 50 different things that came to mind, and I just want it to sound like a really weird jigsaw puzzle. It's this one line from, I don't know what the show is, but it's a reference to that, but it's like,
I think we're thinking the same thing. I can excuse animal
racism.
No, I can excuse racism, but I draw the line in animal cruelty.
So it's like that, but shit white Lolitas say specifically, which I can excuse racism, but afros don't belong in Lolita fashion. But I draw the line at afros in Lolita fashion. And that is the whole afros don't belong in Lolita fashion was something that was specifically said to me when I was a minor as well.
I remember you told me that.
So I was not up and coming because I didn't really get a lot of traction, but this particular art piece or art series or whatever gained a lot of attention because it was a lot of Black Lolitas really weren't seen, but especially not wearing their natural hair. And I drew Lolitas in afros, Lolitas in locks, Lolitas in afro puffs. I actually talked to one of the people that were in my community, Ahmad, who was white, of course. And I was like, yeah, I actually have a lot of issue with non-Black people wearing afro puffs in Lolita fashion now that it's cool because of this situation. They're like, stop being a dead horse. But this person reblogged that art and was like, this has to be a joke. Afros don't belong in Lolita fashion. So shit what Lolita say is that I can excuse racism, but I draw the line at afros in Lolita fashion.
I would piggyback on that and be like,
wow.
I'm sorry. I'm just thinking of so much wow out of pocket.
Or like, I can excuse racism, but I draw the line at ordering from Bodyline. Because for some reason, years ago, they were like, buy from Bodyline if you're a newbie. Instead of trying to get brand, you'll get brand later, yada, yada, yada. Stop trying to act like you're entitled to brand. Then all of a sudden, people are getting Bodyline. Bodyline is actually problematic, even though I constantly suggested that you buy from Bodyline and that I know it is acceptable to you price-wise and size-wise, and it's the most versatile, but you should now all of a sudden feel bad, even though I have no understanding. So it's like that. I will put my shit white Lily to say blase, blase, blase. Because it's usually the most unaware things that they will say.
Out of pocket. Very much outside the pocket.
It's very much outside
like they.
It's out of.
Wow. How about you, Rue? Did you have an add-on, or did you want to do a whole? I think I would want to hear a new one.
So for me, I'll never forget this because this was me getting back into Lolita. So this was Ray said this was like in 2015, 2016. I was on Tumblr. God, I'm screaming. And I was back in the day where the Lolita tag kind of existed. It wasn't just horrible content unrelated to Lolita.
Yeah.
But
wasn't blocked.
Yeah, wasn't blocked. I would go through like a lot of J fashion tags, you know, like the EGL fashion, pastel kawaii thing, all that stuff on Tumblr. You're not going to believe me when I tell you this. And some people that may watch this video may know what I'm talking about. But there was this girl who I think she made her dress, but the caption on her image on tumblr.com, unprovoked, was she looks like her husband owns a plantation. And I remember I saw that and I was just like, no, wait a second. I was like, no way. And did I show you that?
Yes.
I can't remember because I saw that on my phone and I'm like,
Oh my God.
and then it was so funny because like of course I like re-blogged it and was like, nah, this ain't it. Like I was like, what? And people were like coming in her and like I don't believe in like death threats and stuff. However, people were kind of coming for her and being like, not you with this caption in your court looks like garbage. And I was like, oh, but like she like took down the post and like deleted it. And she's just like, plantations are historical. And then people are also like vague making blogs and stuff. Not blogs, but like
they're vague posting.
Yeah, they're vague posting on Tumblr being like, the Lolita community, the absolute state, plantations are historical. Blah blah blah. And going back off of that, I mean, I feel like shit white Lolitas say are like, I don't see what's wrong with X amount, like X fashion, it's historical. And it's just like, you do know that the history is rooted in racism, correct? Like, well, listen, I was a fashion and costume design student. Mm-hmm. I love fashion history. I like literally, and we'll talk about that later because it's like how did I get into Lolita fashion? But Lolita fashion and fashion history and the movements of fashion and like style, like genres and how they developed, all of that fascinates me. I talk about it at least once a day to poor Jordan, who I don't know why you're still with me. Because literally all I do is talk about like,
I should know about the history of anything, especially that I'm getting into. Like I wouldn't go into bread making if I didn't know the history of why people started making bread. That's very minute, but you know what I mean.
And so like, you know, I get the fascination. But also I feel like I mean, I'm literally tone policing myself right now. Because what I want to say is not appropriate. But with all respect, but zero respect, how can you seriously just look past the suffering of people for your pleasure and aesthetic?
Y'all can order from a shopping service, but you guys can't look into how racist you are sometimes.
Facts.
Yeah.
Like, just go. And I just recently used a shopping service, and that was confusing as ever. But like, I'm not out here just saying the most
y'all be knowing
ignorant things.
Y'all be
and
knowing
also wanting to be let off the hook. Like,
y'all
you can't
will
have a
know.
cake and eat it too.
Y'all will know Tenshi Shop. Y'all will know Superbuy. Y'all will know everything. Y'all will know every Taobao shop. Y'all know Red Maria. Y'all will know everything. Y'all will know everything about Taobao, where to shop, where to get shoes. Like, y'all will know the centimeter size of an angelic pretty dress from 2013, but you won't know to not say the N-word. Like, baffles me. Couldn't be me. Like, shit, why Lolita say, oh yeah, I know this dress goes up to 88 centimeters, 72 centimeter waist. N-word. Or like touches my hair unprovoked.
Yeah.
What's the issue?
How I didn't know that.
I didn't know
29
that.
years old and I did not know that you should not touch people without permission.
What do you mean using like saying hella fit of the fleek is inappropriate? You're being over dramatic. Like, of course, these are just like me joking, but like literally, it's the same energy.
Yeah.
Like you know everything that happened with a comm recently.
Our comm.
And so just talking that out and being like, we really have to teach these
The state of
the absolute state of the community. Like just even having to just sit here and be like, this isn't okay and this is why. And then people are like, I wasn't aware, teach me.
I'm 35. I didn't know.
First of all,
I have Google at my fingertips, but I didn't know.
Right.
You can use a shopping service, but you can't go to a library.
Some of these people can literally buy off of Taobao without knowing Mandarin.
But you speak on microaggressions with Black people, completely different language, unheard of, doesn't exist.
Nope.
Like, facts.
I still blame the American education system. Like, okay, yes, that's at fault, but like
Yes,
you guys
also,
you guys have been far removed from high school, so like that's no longer an excuse.
It's like I had like, and not to, I want to go to the next question, but I just wanted to say too is that with like shit that White Lady to say, it's so funny to me too because I sometimes feel like non-Black people think that like we as Black people also just kind of come out the womb knowing everything. That's not either. As a Black person, and like, you know, this is very intimate to admit, but like I had anti-Black stuff that I had to unlearn because we live in an anti-Black society. There was colorism I had to unlearn. There was even because a lot of fat phobia is rooted in anti-Blackness. Look up Venus Hot and Tot. I know what I'm talking about. Historically, there was a lot of stuff that people don't know. I had to learn. I had to educate myself too.
Fearing the Black Body is a good book if you want to go into
absolutely
that, which I need to check out and I need to read.
I've read it and it's a lot. It's a lot.
Heavy.
And it's
Could you say the title again of that book in case people are interested?
Fearing the Black Body. If you look up those words on Google, it should come up because it's one of those. I think it's Sabrina something or another, but it's one of those books where it's like a long title. So fearing the Black Body are the key words.
Like I literally got to hear and get taught romanticization of our founding fathers and how George Washington had wooden teeth when actually his teeth were from slaves. But I had to pay a college to teach me about the Black experience. Kent State University had to pay the money to learn about my past. Yeah. That is literally American history. And like, it's mind-boggling to me because like, you're not the only person that's had to learn. I didn't come out the womb knowing all the information that I know too, but I had to learn. And I learned because I wanted to respect myself and others. There's things about Indigenous people. Yeah, I am Indigenous actually as well. But there are things about Indigenous people, things about Hispanic people, things about white people, Asian people, Pacific Islander people, things that I had to learn that I did not know. And I did that because why not? Why would I not know? Why would I not want to educate myself so I could be kind to others? Why would I not want to educate myself so I could be aware that I'm not being insensitive? But Lolitas will really act like that is asking so much of you. Like they already get offended when you ask the sizing or length of a dress on Lace Market. God forbid it has to be a little kind. Like, and it's not to say that all white, that goes without saying, that all white Lolitas are like this, but it's concerning. It's too many. It's a pattern.
Right. Yeah. And unfortunately, we have to say that. Yeah. Because, you know, some people might feel that, oh, they're talking about me. But no, if it doesn't apply to you, then we are not talking about you. Simple as that.
In fact, if it doesn't apply, it might be a learning experience.
Exactly.
And even with that, if it does apply, you doing one thing does not make you a bad person, and going to church on Sunday once a year doesn't make you a good person. What makes you a good and bad person is subjective. If you actively try to be better, then you know your actions and yourself as a person will reflect that. I'm not perfect either. But what I do is that I do a lot of self-reflection. I ask for people in my close circle to hold me accountable. I do research. I do the work for my self-growth and self-preservation. Every person should be doing that. Yeah, it's hard. It's not easy, but it has to be done. So like, yeah, if something you hear in this video or videos in the future offends you, you know, or makes you feel some type of way, yeah, that sucks. Your feelings are valid and you're allowed to be in your feelings, but you also have to get over it. Right. You got to be better. You can do better. It's okay. It's okay that it hurts. It's not going to hurt forever.
Yeah. Right. Wow.
So,
shit.
I'm sorry. I know this.
You literally have no reason to apologize. I honestly am blown away because quite honestly, I can confidently say, like, even though I am Afro-Latina, I honestly have never experienced like any sort of like at least any obvious macro or microaggressions. The most like I guess like bad stuff that I've gotten, which maybe either of you could relate, was that, oh, you look like a man.
Oh
Man.
yeah, because the whole literally Rue touched on it earlier, but Black people in particular, just because of the features that we have, if they are not, you know, small and such, they're not associated with femininity. Therefore, there's that in some cases misguided transphobia and
Right.
stuff like that. And that's it's the concept of masculinity to offend or to harm. There's nothing wrong with necessarily looking like that, but it's also used in a malicious way.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a direct testament to not only, you know, anti-Latina, anti-Black sentiments, but also how rigid Eurocentric beauty standards are. You might think of that as like, oh, well, you're just insulting somebody's status as a woman, but like you need a lot of people need to understand that people of color, but especially Black people, did not earn they don't have that sort of femininity in the way that white women do. They can't fall back on that in the same way that white people can do.
Right. We're just all built differently. Like it really just depends on the individual. Now, I will admit, when I received those comments, probably the first time I didn't feel any type of way, but then hearing it a couple more times, oh boy. I will admit, it did get to me. It did get to me.
And I've gotten those comments before just because, like, you know, people associate certain heights, certain facial structures, which are related to my race, you know, my long nose, jaw structure, etc. Tallness is often associated with Blackness for reasons related to colonialism. But like all that, it just took a lot of, as Rue mentioned, decolonizing of the mind and also realizing the root of that. Like, why is that meant to insult? Why are they saying those things rather than just like, oh, woman not supposed to look like me? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's a lot. And a lot of people don't like to think that. They're just like, oh, well, just ignore it. It's like, okay, but like they still said that. So what you gonna do about that?
Right. Wow. Whew,
yeah. And like,
go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, because we're gonna be talking about this more in depth, of course.
Yeah.
But this conversation thus far is why so much of this has bothered. I mean, I can't speak for the entire Black community. I'm not the president of Black people.
We speak for the betterment.
But yeah, exactly. We speak for the betterment of the Black community and Black Lolitas alike. And it affecting one Black person is enough and is valid enough for concern. And as a Black person, I will say, because like, yes, I'm a Black Lolita, but my experience and the education that I've sought out for myself and my betterment of myself is different. And everyone's education and self-awareness as a Black Lolita is also different. So you're gonna have Black Lolitas that are saying, what's the big deal? But just because they're ignorant doesn't mean that it isn't real. Just because that Black Lolita doesn't understand how deep the rabbit hole goes doesn't mean that other Black Lolitas don't know what they're talking about. And one of the reasons why this whole thing, which we'll be talking about, bothers me so much is because I have been so aware. I have done education. The trends that we're seeing in our J fashion community are trends I see in other communities, and it's an issue. And we have the power to fix it and to stop it. And we're choosing, well, not us, but like the larger community at hand is choosing to ignore it. That bothers me because we have the technology resources and like education to not have it be like this. So the fact that it's like this is very frustrating for me.